Cheers, Birdman. Number 17. Number 17. Can you believe it?
Yeah, fucking back at it here. You know,
me and my sweet Birdman back at it again.
Another Monday, another fucking reason to talk to you.
Another Sour Monkey by Victory, delicious beer, 9.5%. You know, these aren't like the year before work beers. You want to take it easy and drink these at night only. Welcome to RankEmz, number 17. Everybody knows the drill. Random topic. I don't know it yet. I'm pretty excited for this one. I can't tell if there's an old school reference or something with that shirt you got on, but we're gonna find out.
Yeah, no, little Speaker City. Actually, no. This is not a clue.
Okay. Still a sweet shirt though.
It's upsetting because it definitely could have been an old school clue, but old school has nothing to do with this.
So a guy flipped his car in my front yard yesterday.
Yeah, I saw the pic you sent through.
Yeah, took my mailbox out, flipped it over on his way to school. He was more concerned about, he's like, oh, that's not going to buff out. 17-year-old kid. And he was worried about his sandwich. He had like a sandwich on the front seat. And he's like, I hope that's still good. I was like, I think the sandwich is fine, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, I took my mailbox out. I called the insurance company. I'm going to try my best to commit a little insurance fraud. But we'll see how that works out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, without further ado, if you want to launch us into whatever BS we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah. So for this week, my inspiration came from my wife.
That's cute.
She was in the other room watching some TV. I walked by, and what was she watching? But the new Disney Aladdin movie with Big Willie Style himself.
Wait. Will Smith is in the new Aladdin movie?
Yeah, he's the genie.
How new is it? I haven't even heard of this.
Last 4 years, maybe. Last 3-4 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen the movie before, not really a fan, but it did spark an idea.
Okay.
And for some reason, kind of in that particular moment, I was like, oh, look at this stupid fucking movie. But I thought of Aladdin's Castle. Remember Aladdin's Castle?
Of course.
Right?
Every birthday party ever. Remember they were closed on Sundays, so it was just unlimited video games? It was closed to the public. It was closed to the public on Sundays, like birthday party day.
Oh, okay. Yeah, didn't know that. But for those out there listening, Aladdin's Castle actually was a chain of arcades that appeared in many malls. So in our local mall, we did have an Aladdin's Castle. As a gamer myself, I definitely enjoyed going to Aladdin's Castle back in the day. Eventually, it became pocket change. So it changed hands. But kind of, it made me think, one thing I did love as a kid were arcade games. And one very specific type of game that was always very easy to kind of pick up and be decent at right away were driving or racing games.
Okay.
So what I'd like to do is for today, we're going to be ranking 5 of my favorite arcade driving games. So Wheels, if you go ahead and open up the email I sent to you.
Yeah.
There's 5 games. I sent you a couple of YouTube clips. As I'm going through some of these, you can take a look at some of those. Maybe just put your volume on low, just to give you a little refresher for each of these. But for everyone else out there, here are the 5 we're going to be ranking today. Number 1, Daytona USA. Number 2, Ivan Iron Man Stewart Super Offroad. Number 3, Cruisin' USA. Number 4, Outrun. And number 5, Hang On. So like I said, as you kind of, start to put some thought into your rankings, I did send you 5 through 5 clips. You're going to know what some of these are. Some of the older ones you may want a little refresher, but let me give you a little, give everyone out there, all of our 7 listeners, some background on some of these. So number 1 was Daytona USA. This game was developed and released by Sega in 1994. Each player was in a NASCAR-type stock car. It had the option to race on 3 different courses, beginner, advanced, and expert. You could connect up to 8 Daytona cabinets together for 8-player multi-racing crazy action. It was a revolutionary racing game, and that is one of the... It was a revolutionary racing game and is one of the top-grossing arcade games of all time. Not just arcade racing games, just top-grossing games.
Daytona USA is?
Daytona USA, yes.
Wow, okay.
Number 2, Ivan Ironman Stewart Super Offroad. So this was a 3-player driving/racing game released in 1989 by Leland Corporation. The objective of this game was to race your off-road truck against 3 other opponents. Like I mentioned, the cabinet itself did allow 3 players to control a steering wheel and a gas pedal. During each race, the objective was to be the fastest to complete 4 laps. Along the way, there were money bags, nitros, and other goodies that you could kind of collect. For each first to third place driver, they were given prize money. Then they could use that prize money to upgrade their truck for the next race. Number 3, Cruising USA. This was a racing game that was developed and released by Midway Games. It was released in the arcade in 1994. It was a fun arcade-type racing game where you could unlock hidden bonus vehicles like a school bus. It was successful in the arcade and the highest-grossing dedicated arcade cabinet of 1995. It was later ported to the Nintendo 64 console and spawned a series of sequel games.
Now, let me ask you a question. Are these all kind of in the same era? Like, is that newer than the others?
So it's really within kind of a 10-year time frame. So like 85 to 95.
Okay. So
it's
you're
our
saying okay.
It's our childhood, you know.
Yeah.
Number 4, Outrun. This was a driving game that was released by Sega in 1986. One of the ways this driving game stuck out in 1986 were the graphics, the control of the Ferrari Testarossa from a third-person perspective, and the ability to select your soundtrack. It was the highest-grossing arcade game worldwide in 1987 and Sega's most successful game of the 80s. So just think about that. It was Sega's most successful game of the 1980s, like the golden age of the arcade. Outrun was their most successful cabinet. There were multiple cabinet types, including an upright and a sit-in simulator cabinet. And last but not least, Hang On. This was a driving game released by Sega in 1985. This is a motorcycle driving game with a perspective similar to Outrun, where the view is from a low third-person perspective. What was innovative about this game was the sit-on cabinet, which required a player to lean on the motorcycle in order to turn on the screen.
I remember that.
It became the highest-grossing arcade game in the United States in 1985. Then in 1986, it was the highest-grossing arcade game in both the U.S. and in Japan. So if you kind of take a look, 3 of these games were developed by Sega: Daytona, Outrun, and Hang On. So Sega had, like, kind of during this era, it was definitely a major player in the racing games.
For sure.
So now that you had some time to kind of look through those clips, I think we should go ahead and do what we do and rank them.
All right. I like this list. Nice work on this one. I also really like the honorable mentions that I have in mind, but we're going to wait on that.
Yep.
I have to go with Hang On at number 5. Motorcycle racing games, other than one of what I'm going to say as my honorable mention, never really did it for me.
Okay.
The cool factor, I will give it, none of these games stink, by the way. The cool factor of being on the bike, I was going to ask you if this is that console where you're actually kind of leaning and doing all that.
Yeah.
Especially at the time, you know, I can only imagine how like brutal it would be to play today, right?
Yeah.
Even if they can still support me at my current, 240-pound man. The motorcycle thing didn't do it for me. Still a fun game to play. Never spent much time with it. And in fact, I never really got on a lot of those, like, get into the video games at the arcade.
Okay. All right.
Because I don't know what it was. They were, like, more intimidating, or you needed a friend, or maybe they were $1 instead of 25 cents, right?
Yep,
so you ran out of dollars quick. Great game, but still, this list, that's my basement.
Yep, I get you. So mine's similar. I have Outrun, which was kind of, released a year later by Sega. I do understand kind of, this was a somewhat revolutionary arcade game. To me, it just wasn't as fun as some of the others. For me, Hang On had the motorcycle factor, which I liked a lot as a kid.
Yeah.
But by the time I really actually had a chance to play Outrun, there were newer, similar type racing games. One that comes to mind is called Radmobile that were out that were much better. So the gameplay in Outrun was just kind of left and right turns, and it wasn't too much to really keep me entertained as a kid. I've played it recently as an adult, like probably within the last 5 years, let's say, and it holds up, right? And I can kind of enjoy it now for what it is. But back then, didn't really do much for me. So number 5, not really difficult.
All right, this list is getting tough for me. I'm kind of making changes on the fly here. Don't necessarily disagree with that. I'm going to go... have to do it. I originally had it higher. I have to go with Super Offroad number 4.
Really? Okay.
I know. I love this game. But it was so frustratingly hard.
Yeah.
Being like over top of it, and all you want to do is spin that wheel, right? And around the curves, and you end up doing like the loop-de-loop, and then you're stuck in these curves. So getting that turn just right, and I think there was really only 2 like inputs. It was like the steering wheel and
gas.
The gas.
Yep.
Yeah, so there wasn't really a whole lot like.
Oh, there was a nitro button, so if you had nitros, you get the little bursts. But.
And this was the newer one, right? This is the Super Offroad, so this wasn't like the pixelated 80s one. This is like they're revamped.
Yeah, so this one was still in the 80s. It was released in 89, but yeah, I believe there was an off-road that was released earlier in the 80s.
I just feel like some of these games you had to spend you had to like blow your load of quarters to get good. Whereas I would focus more on like the other consoles where it was like kind of easy to just throw your quarters in and go.
Yeah.
So this might have been a game like it was birthday party day where it was unlimited games. Maybe I would spend some more time on it. But man, and there was always the other kids that were so much better.
Yeah. There
was always that kid hogging the thing and he knew exactly how to spin that wheel. So fun game. I love like the overhead kind of like simplistic aspect of it.
Yeah.
It was just so damn hard. I seem to remember that being a difficult game. I don't know if you agree, but that's really the main reason number 4.
Yep. No, it's hard, and when I rank it, I'll kind of talk through more. But if you remember, there were a couple of levels where there wouldn't be barriers, and you would have to go this way and then this way, and you could get turned around. You could get like very easily. Your cars could collide. It made for an interesting round for sure.
I think I'm gonna go try to find that like on some emulator somewhere and try to play that at home.
It's great. All right, my number 4. I had similar to you. I had a tough time with this. I have Cruis'n USA. I do. So starting with this one, I love all these racing games. Outrun was just kind of a throwaway for me. But Cruis'n USA, it was somewhat similar to the kind of the viewpoint of Outrun, but definitely much more modern. This was game was in, I believe, 94.
I gotta look at your video for this one here real quick.
Yeah, so most of these games, I had the opportunity to play in like the full kind of cabinet where you would sit down with the racing wheel. I did most of that. I did, at the time this game looked great. Really looked great. There were a lot of fun Easter eggs.
Sorry, a YouTube ad. I'm just watching the video.
There were a lot of fun Easter eggs. Like in the arcade version, not in the console versions, you could hit animals and they would explode onto the screen. Okay. There would be flies and stuff that would hit your screen. And then the big one that actually got pulled out of the Nintendo 64 version, there was a bikini girl at the end of each race. And she would kind of push her chest together. It was like, a little bit of a fun thing for a 12-year-old.
Mushing a couple boobs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Nothing wrong with it. Doesn't make you a bad guy.
No. So fun game. I did like some of the Easter eggs. You could select like a police car. You hit a couple buttons, select a police car, select a school bus. But there's just not too much to it, right? It's a couple of different tracks where you're just going left, right, trying to avoid the other cars there. It's good, but it's my number 4.
Yeah, I think it was good at the time, and I think I'm gonna have to kind of agree with you. That's my number 3.
Yeah.
Cruis'n USA. It wasn't a really good. Was that the N64 version? I feel like that was a pretty good at-home game. I know we're sticking with the console theme here, but
yeah,
I remember that was a pretty popular title for the N64.
Oh yeah, because it was advertised and it wasn't actually fully true. But the arcade game version was supposed to have been developed on the Ultra 64 hardware, which eventually became the Nintendo 64.
Okay.
Not entirely true. So they had to remove a lot of stuff from the arcade game to get it to run on the Nintendo 64. But for an N64 game, it did look pretty good.
So yeah, I mean, I have no problem with the bikini girl. It kind of seems like a 2000s thing to remove, not a 90s thing. I didn't know we were already doing that back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. I guess, it's not for kids or whatever. But I also remember the gimmicky kind of factor, which was kind of cool. You're right.
Yeah.
Smashing deer and bugs and whatever else. But I don't remember it as well as I remember a lot of these others. In my memory serves me correct, it kind of feels a little bit just like left, right, like you said.
Yep.
And it was a multiplayer console, right? Or
yeah, like you could have two cockpits together and you could race each other. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I if it was the N64 ranking, I'd probably rank it higher in this group. But as far as the console, I don't think I spent more than 50, 75 cents on that one all time.
Yeah, I get you.
I remember watching it and seeing it, and obviously the pixelated cleavage was neat, but not enough to get it out of number 3.
Yeah. Listen, I hear you. My number 3, Hang On. So it's an older game, but Hang On gets the number 3 spot on this particular list because of the ride-on version, right? It was all red. You would kind of have to. It was like a sport bike. You would kind of have to lean over.
Yeah.
You would have to do the accelerator by hitting the handlebar, and then you would lean, and that was cool at the time. Like there wasn't too much of that. Yeah. Like there wasn't too much of that going on. So it's that kind of innovation around the controls that really, like, as a kid, I'm like, man, I'm on a motorcycle. This is awesome, Mm-hmm. In reality, it's nothing like it, but just that innovative control pushed it to number 3. What stopped it at number 3, I think, is the limited gameplay. So similar to your Cruising USA, your Hang On, it's left, right. There's not too much there. I think the real sell was the control and just being able to be on it. Yeah.
How many arcade games have you beaten?
Never.
In the arcade. Have you ever seen one beaten? I feel like it's just a big quarter suck.
I may have seen someone beat Killer Instinct. I think it was Fulgore or Eeyore. There was an I think I saw someone beat Killer Instinct. I don't think I've ever seen anyone beat Mortal Kombat or anything. I think it was Killer Instinct.
And you never beat it because you're that good. You beat it because your dad gave you $20 in quarters versus...
I still think you had to be pretty good, especially like those fighting games and stuff,
You're still bleeding quarters, right? Nobody's just sweeping through a game.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Because I've never beaten an arcade game in an arcade, I don't think.
I've never.
Like the claw game or something.
Yeah. And even that, do you really beat that? Because you've already dumped $7 in for like a squishy ball. For
a $1 squishy ball. No, you don't beat that either. All right. Am I on number 2?
Deuce.
Outrun.
Okay.
I think a couple reasons. And am I a creep? Like a little bit? Because you had the babe in the car, right? That was kind of the factor, right? So
in the Ferrari.
Testarossa, or
Testarossa.
I think it was just like you're clearly in California. You got the babe with you. You got the red Ferrari. You kind of have it all going on, and it was graphics wise was kind of like mind-bogglingly ahead of its time at the arcade then. Yeah, I remember Sega was killing it. This is a Sega one, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Sega was kind of killing the graphics thing for a while there with these consoles, and the reason it can't be number 1 is because it is also still a boring left, right. Yeah. Like, there's not a whole lot you can do, and even the turns, like the car just goes like angles, and you're just like, like it's not smooth. Like it doesn't actually look like a car is turning. It just kind of has that, with the lines like kind of whizzing by you. Ferrari, the babe, California, ahead of its time graphics wise. That's why, and it also like has a place in my heart because growing up, it just was like I had never seen anything like that. Like, oh my God, I'm sitting there playing like Excite Bike or whatever at home, and I go to the arcade and see this, and I'm like, whoa, this is something.
So as I was reading up on that one, one thing they said, apparently it was like a huge jump in technological advance was the ability to select the soundtrack. So they didn't have like licensed music, but you had 4 or 5 different tracks that you could have playing.
Rock jams, rap jams. Beach jams.
The ability to choose that apparently was very difficult, I think, to program in. So I remember being able to do that. I wasn't blown away by it, but that was like a big thing.
If I remember, wasn't there like a radio button, like almost like it was like you were controlling
the radio? Was.
Like it was like almost like the radio of the car.
Yeah.
You had a couple console games, didn't you? Or is that pinball or?
No. So I have a little arcade cabinet where I just have multiple games that you can kind of select.
And
it doesn't have a steering wheel. It just has the buttons and 2 joysticks.
I'm sure they sell those steering wheels and stuff online.
Yeah.
You can probably tie it. Anyway, I digress. Outrun, I just remember it was like cool looking. I was like, I want to be that guy when I grow up.
Classic game.
And I never ended up there, for the record. So, no convertible Ferrari for me.
There's still time.
Yeah, we got time. A classic game. Can't make #1, but on the list for me.
Yeah.
And you shit on it, so we disagree on that.
I did. All right, #2 for me, Daytona USA. Graphics were good. So this is a 94, I believe. Graphics were good, but the multiplayer is really what pushed it to #2. The ability to have 8 connected cabinets was awesome. So I can probably specifically think of maybe only 5 times or so that I remember, like when I was younger, playing with the 8 cabinets, and it was really around going to somewhere like a Dave & Buster's, where they would have all 8 cabinets lined up. Each was numbered individually. That's awesome to be able to kind of race in a situation like that back in the mid-90s, kind of unheard of. I really remember loving that beginner track, which was kind of like a NASCAR oval. There were certain... That was a track you could actually use the shifter. So they had the 4-speed shifter in the cockpit cabinet, the gas and the brake. There was some force feedback in the wheel itself. Of all the games on this list, I probably put the most quarters into Daytona USA. Do you remember they had a version of it up at the AMC? Until like a long time after it came out.
At the movie theater?
Yeah.
No, I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, because I would play that every time, like at the end of every movie. It's like, here's 50 cents.
Like 25 years old, just chuck it in there?
Yeah. I don't think I ever, maybe 5 to 10% of the time would I ever select the intermediate or the expert tracks. I usually always did that beginner track, and it was great. I had a lot of fun doing it. It was an easy #2 for me. It was going to be 1 or 2. My next one, my #1, has a special place in my heart, but Daytona is a close #2 for me.
I feel like as you were talking through that, you almost were trying to talk yourself into that being #1.
I know.
Because obviously everything you just said, that's clearly the #1.
Yeah.
Daytona USA #1. You had gears. You did have a clutch, you were just banging gears without a clutch pedal, which was kind of weird. But it was just basically, as a kid, you were like 1 is slow and 4 is fast.
Yeah.
Right. And you can't. And there was an element. There was a little bit of like, a strategic element of starting out 1 and exactly when you shifted gears and everything. Because you could, if you just put it in 4 to start, you're coming out slow.
Yeah.
And I do like what you called it. Was it force feedback, where you kind of feel it in the wheel a little bit? I can't remember a game before that had that.
I'm right there.
And the 8-player mode. I mean, give me a break. You said it's like a Dave & Buster's. Your regular arcade didn't have it, but I remember going to like Myrtle Beach as an example, right? Or like down the shore, whatever. And that thing was jammed all day. I can only imagine what a 8 Daytona USA setup made that place in a day.
Printing those dollars.
25 cents every 30 seconds, each one of those. You just let it go. You just walk away. You didn't have to worry about COVID or wiping them down. Nothing.
That one was maybe never 25 cents. That might have been a 50 to $1.
Yeah, I say 25 just because that's the classic. But I think by the time we were even 10 or 12, like 25 cents was Donkey Kong only.
Yeah.
Right? Like everything was 50 cents and up.
Yeah. I bet that's probably the case.
I remember it because we were taking, like, the change machines. It was like, no, your dad gave you $21 bills.
Yeah. Yep.
My dad was always cool about it too. Like, he was always like, all right, go to the arcade. Here's a roll of quarters or whatever. Daytona USA is such a great game.
It's fantastic. I have nothing bad to say about it. I just like this next game better. But
yeah, the 8-player. Because it could be like, you could see 2s, you could see 4s, whatever. Yeah.
Yep. I don't know if I ever saw a 6. You would see 1, 2, 4, 8.
How do they do that? Like, you just have to wait? Like, let's say I walked up 30 seconds later, you walked up. Like, how do they sync all that up? You would just wait for your the next race.
Yeah. So no, if I put my money in, then it would say, okay, 30 seconds. So whoever put in within that 30 seconds could then connect. So, but if my race started and you're on the second player comes in, they would just play their own.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty ingenious. For 94.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I would love to have 8 set. I would love to have a house that was big enough to have the 8 set up in the basement. And I don't know the last time 7 of my friends have been with me in the same room in 20 years. But
4 setup would be real good.
Yeah.
Because I think you would get a decent amount with 4.
Oh, for sure.
You know?
What do you think? What's your best guess what that would cost? Like a fully functioning, refurbished 4-bag Daytona USA game.
$1,500 a pop, so $6,000 for 4.
That's way less than I would have guessed.
They're old, man. It's 28 years old.
But somebody did the work to make sure they're all up and running right and all that. Like they're good to go. Like you're not soldering motherboards back.
I think part of it is there were a ton of them, so I don't think there's scarcity in the market. I'm pulling this out my asshole too. I don't think there's scarcity in the market, and I also haven't looked at video game prices in a long time. If something breaks, I think there's easily parts available. So to fix it, I don't think is as expensive as a more rare game where you might need to look around for parts, etc.
I love when you pull it out your asshole when we're talking about video game consoles from 1994. This is what we do here, everyone.
That's how it goes.
All right, well, Daytona USA #1 for me. I know yours, but hit us.
All right, #1, Ivan, Iron Man Stewart's Super Offroad. So
who's he, first of all?
That was going to be my pause. Before this game, did you ever know? I still don't know who Ivan Iron Man Stewart is, but
was there some kind of race
branding?
Was there some kind of race circuit where this was what they did with Baja trucks like that?
Yeah, I don't know if they were actually doing it on tracks. He might have been the full desert, 1,000-mile race guy.
Yeah, the Baja, yeah.
But I had never heard of him. There's no way that could have been worth it. Whatever they paid him, how many people knew who he was? I could be completely wrong, but it just seems like it's such an obscure person's name.
He's still alive. 76 years old.
Okay.
He's got a pretty sweet little Baja truck. Yeah, he's got the actual jumping over sand dunes version of a...
Yeah.
He's actually got the Marty McFly Tacoma or
the
Toyota
old
truck.
Toyota
the Baja version. This thing looks awesome.
Yeah. I don't know if there's ever a time in the United States where people were watching Baja racing.
No.
Right? Was it on ABC? ABC Sports presents Baja racing tonight.
No, I think that's a European thing. I don't know who even cares about. Even the Subarus and who watches that game? I watch highlights of shit flipping over or whatever. But
yeah.
Anyway,
so,
that's it.
So I did go back and forth with Daytona and Super Offroad. Super Offroad definitely comes out on top for me, not because of the technological kind of advances, etc. I love the cartoony feel of this game, but also the frustration that comes along with it. This game, I think, has more legs than any of these other racing games. So I believe there were 8 tracks, but then the tracks got more difficult. So there were 8 versions of a track. But then I think some of them would go in reverse order and stuff. So there were a ton of different combinations that could happen. It would get more difficult because, like I said, some of the tracks didn't have borders all the way, so you would get fucking crisscrossed. It was cool that you could have 2 of your friends playing with you, so you're all standing there, and it's the 3-way cabinet.
Yeah.
I think it was yellow, blue, and red were kind of the 3 colors
you could be. Right.
And that matched up to the color of the truck. Yeah, I love every race. One of your buddies got face fucked a little bit. They were out in front, doing fine. And all of a sudden, they hit one of those potholes.
Yeah.
They hit a pothole, and someone rammed them. They got completely screwed over, and you came in first. It sucks when the face fucking happened to you, but when when you saw your buddy have that happen, it was great.
That was one of your fuck it moments where you just you spin the wheel and hit the gas.
Yeah.
And you're just going backwards just to try to fuck with the other guys and make sure you ruin their day.
Yeah. So, like you said, though, in order to kind of get far in this game, you're probably pumping quarters in. So I've actually had recent enjoyment with this because there's a local arcade where you just pay $10. They have beer. It's a barcade, right? They have beers and stuff, and it's all free play. And this is one of the games they have. So, like, the wife and I will go in, we'll take two of the sides and just race each other for 30 minutes. You can get through so many races in 30 minutes. But at that point, you're actually able to build up some of your cash. You're able to upgrade some of your trucks. So your trucks are getting faster. They're handling the divots better. This is the most fun I've had playing a racing game. And like I said, I think it has the most legs, the most replay value. Because
Ivan the Iron Man.
Yeah. Huge draw.
Couldn't you see like a Will Ferrell movie like where he plays that guy?
Yes.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like,
should we write that? Should that be our first RankEmz production?
Should just make a Ivan the Iron Man movie starring me and you?
No, like we'll write it for, another comedic actor.
Mr. Ferrell. Yeah, I know him. I'll give him a call. I'll see what he thinks.
So
I'm looking at this truck he had though, the Toyota. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a Tacoma yet, I guess, in the 80s. It was just a Toyota pickup or whatever.
Yeah.
Thing is boss. Maybe Smitty, I don't know. Maybe we can get one right here.
Yeah. We'll get him to put one up.
That'd be great. That game was fantastic. Was it one of the ones where you could cheat? So like the intersection, could you like cut it and come back the other way and kind of like get ahead in that lap? You know what I'm saying? It didn't work that way. It was like literally counting laps. Okay, because like Mario Kart and some of those had that.
Yep.
Good list, man. Love it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just see if I can find a way to play this game. There's got to be like some dumb browser version somewhere, right?
I guarantee you there is. That's through ours. I wanted to kind of see, just since you've had some time to think, what honorable mentions do you have here? What did I not think of?
Yeah, I mean, I have more than we have time for, so I'll try to keep it short.
Throw me a couple.
Mario Kart we'll throw out because it's a little cartoony. My favorite, well, I can't say favorite. All three of these are great. I have three.
Yep.
Chase HQ.
Ah, man.
So the one guy was the shooter guy, and the other guy, and you were like basically shooting at the car in front of you, and it was like falling apart as you hit it more and more. I remember it was your 4th grade birthday party, I think, where we weren't spending quarters that day. I was glued to it with
Turk.
What's his Ricky?
Cubane.
Cubane. Yeah, me and him alternating shooter, driver, whatever.
Yeah.
I had more fun with that game than probably any other game at the arcade ever.
I agree with you. I feel like that's not necessarily a racing game, but all the ones I selected were racing. I did say this topic was driving/racing, so it would fit into that driving category. Great game. It didn't even occur to me. I wish I would have.
Maybe it doesn't fit into the category. That's fine. I just freaking love that game.
If that became our 6th one, that's definitely in my top 3.
Yeah. Do you have any others? Should I just run through my list?
No, I have one. I'll just toss out there and we'll go back and forth. Do you ever play Crazy Taxi?
Yes. I've never spent much time on it. Isn't it newer though?
It's newer-ish, probably like 2000. It was a Sega game. What was cool about that was you had to go pick up people and drop them off. Yeah. So it wasn't just a left or a right thing, not a racing game, but you were racing against the clock to like go to these different locations, right? Kind of cool. Like there was a lot of fun replay value because no two games were actually really the same.
It almost feels like that's like Grand Theft Auto, like some of the missions where you kind of have to run around and pick people up and drop them off. And
yep. Just an arcade version of that.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've never really played it much. What about the Rush games, like San Francisco Rush? Yep. And there were other cities, I think.
Yeah, and then there was a futuristic one, I think San Francisco, SF Rush 2049.
But you could there were areas where you could sneak, like if you knew the little Easter eggs, you could sneak off and whatever. Yeah. I remember that being like towards the tail end of our childhood, though. That was more for probably the next generation, but
I think that was also a midway game like Cruisin' USA. That was kind of like the second generation of that platform. Yeah. So yeah, there was Cruising USA, Cruising World, and maybe one other. But I think San Francisco Rush was like similar development teams and stuff. And it was kind of in that same vein. A lot of Easter eggs.
You had the 2D, like it wasn't just a flat track. Like you had the element of like flying in the air or going uphill, whatever.
Yep, more cars, more ways to select, that kind of stuff. That was cool.
And then obviously the kids started to get into like Gran Turismo and all that stuff. But that's for the young bucks.
Yep.
I got one more, but I can't let it go. So
hit me with it.
Road Rash.
Okay. Yeah.
I spent so many hours in that thing, and again, not a console, so it was. I mean, it was an arcade game, I believe.
Yep.
But I had the Game Gear, the Sega Game Gear. I spent every evening of my childhood acting like I was asleep under the blanket playing that.
Road Rash is the one with the motorcycles, right?
Motorcycles, and you had weapons where you were trying to knock the other guys off.
You were like whipping guys with chains. Yeah.
Yep. I had so much fun with that game. Such a terrible thing for a kid to be doing.
Yeah.
But I turned out all right. I still don't have my Ferrari, but, I'm all right. I had a lot of fun with that game. That honestly would probably be number one had that been in the list for me, just based on my history with it.
Yeah. The last one I have is actually also a motorcycle game. It was called Harley Davidson something. So I just have it noted here as the Harley Davidson game. Similar to Hang On, you would sit on a Harley replica. It had the handlebars, so you would actually turn like this, and you would lean a little bit. You had foot pedals that you put your feet on, and it was fun. It was a racing, like a timed kind of racing game, but it had like an element of the Crazy Taxi in there, so you weren't racing around like a loop, or it wasn't 7 laps. You were just going from point A to point B in X number of seconds. I had a lot of fun playing that game. Was
that newer? Like, did you play that in your 30s or something?
No, not in my 30s, but that was probably in the 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. Also, not in your smaller arcades, because I do remember the cabinet being kind of huge. Like, it took up a lot of space, so you would see it in your, your Dave & Buster's type larger arcades, your Myrtle Beaches, your Jersey Shore, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that sounds kind of awesome. Remember that time that I beat you at the arcade and you beat me at hoops, and nobody would have guessed it should have been the other way around, but somehow I beat you at arcades and you beat me at pool hoops.
Yep, it was great.
That was a fun day.
That was a fantastic day. We didn't we have to go and get you some shorts?
I flew all the way to Texas and didn't realize that it's like basically northern Mexico.
Yeah.
Right, so I had to get like weather appropriate clothes. So we went right to the mall. I forget where I went, the Gap or something.
Yep.
It was a great weekend though.
Yeah, that was fun.
But we got real drunk in your pool and I started missing all the shots and you came way back. Never lived that one down.
Yeah.
All right, well, RankEmz, good one this week. Loving it.
Yeah, something a little bit different. We haven't done a video game topic here in a couple of weeks, so it's one I do like to kind of touch on. It's one of my favorite things out there. So
now I'm gonna go and buy a console sometime. If you're telling me they're $1,500, I'm already gonna be on eBay tonight.
That would be my guess. If you find them, maybe let's send me some of those too.
Good stuff, man. Why don't you wrap us up?
Yep. Thanks everyone for joining us this week on RankEmz. We look forward to being back every Monday with a new RankEmz list. Thanks to all of our followers. Please share our content. Follow us on all social media apps at RankEmz Podcast. We're on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat. Please smash that like button. It really helps us out. Comment below. That also helps us out with the algorithm. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. All links will be listed below by our producer and engineer, Smitty. Thanks for all the work he does on the back end. Thanks to all of you for listening. We'll be back again next Monday with a new list of RankEmz.
I feel like you screw up engineer every once in a while, like in most of these episodes. I'm going to have to go back and look. I'm pretty sure you screwed it up like 80% of the time.
Yeah, I just don't respect Smitty.
So I don't respect his title and what he does.
And if I were to think of him as an engineer, I don't know if I made this joke already, but it's the guy that's shoveling coal in the front car of the train, not like an actual like scientist. Yeah.
No.
All right, Birdman.
Real piece of shit, you know?
Fuck that time.
Yeah.
All right, Birdman. All right, everybody. God bless.
Till we meet again.
All right.
good. Yeah, honestly, I was pulling some of it out of my ass because I can't remember some of them, so